Hey guys, it's Henry, and I really have started to appreciate the fact that I have people who subscribe because they do things that are similar, they have similar interests, and it hasn't been easy for me to be on YouTube because I keep having camera problems, and then it gets in the way in what I'm going to do because I'm waiting for a battery to charge, or something is a dirty lens or something, and so that's been difficult. And then YouTube itself, I'm not a really highly sophisticated person. I don't even like having a smartphone. So when they make me change my name and do all sorts of stuff, that's been a problem. And when I've tried to put music in, then people come after me out of the woodwork, and it's like, okay, that. But I think it's worth it because I really like doing this stuff, and even if only one person out of 10,000 thinks that anything that I'm doing is of interest to them, that's good. So this is kind of a walkthrough where, I don't think I'm Indiana Jones. I just can't take a lot of sun exposure anymore. And this is so far, my man cave. It's all found materials on the property, and it's all stuff. It's really a couple of Adirondack chairs. There's a campaign table in the back. There's an old planting table, and I tapped into the RV port that I put back there years ago. So it has electricity, and I can run things. But it is off-grid right now. It runs off solar panels and things. That's an old greenhouse frame that was 8 by 10, and the zoning here says, and everything I've done is completely legal and permitted as far as construction on the house. But what I like is the zoning here allows that anything that's 8 by 8 or smaller can be, you don't need a permit, and it's more like a garden shed. So that's the outline, and then as I add stuff, well, I already camp out here now. It's a lot more comfortable than my old camping site. I can move stuff around. I can move this patio stove all over the place. And I'm going to move in for a second on this because it's like my third take on this. This camera that I'm using right now has been my favorite camera for years, but everything started failing on it. And I'm still having to remove the memory card now and replace the battery separately. The interface doesn't work, but it still takes the best pictures. Insulated lid. I can hang stuff down inside and smoke it with the insulated lid on this shish kebab thing by taking out the spark arrestor. Let's hang it over here. This grill goes inside so that I can grill steaks and things at incredibly high temperatures for really short times, or grill anything that I want. And if I want to smoke like something like fish or tilapia, we happen to like tilapia and stuff, you put this on there, and you can also smoke and dry vegetables in it and stuff. It didn't take a lot of modifications to get this thing set up. And it works. I did put a reflector around it that I would recommend that anybody do that has one of these patio things, so that it sort of reflects all of the infrared out toward the area that you want to warm up. And this is temporary for now, but hey, it's working. And on a really cold night, it's just great to put a fire in here. A friend of mine gave me some actual chunks of oak, and a couple of chunks, and they burn all night long, and they really beam out this warmth. It's really nice. So I just wanted to show you this people cave here. I just want to keep floating this because I haven't posted in so long because of the camera problems. I just decided to quit making excuses and just put this camera back together. So that's kind of like the people cave. That is a beautiful navel orange that I have had and trimmed for many years, but I abandoned a long time ago because I was so busy. Nice rose. Loquat. Got lucky with this one. I took a seedling that had sprouted and it has wonderful loquats. That's rosemary. So we'll go around and complete this thing. There's the pathway that goes down. That's night blooming jasmine that all of the insects love. And now that I've cleared this path out, I can walk down. At some point this will be all cleared out. I keep kicking this tripod, but at some point this will all be cleared out. But I didn't want to give up all of these wonderful oranges all over. Hundreds of them. And you can't really see them, they're like camouflaged. But then what I've been doing is I know that I did cover at one point this greenhouse, but I had to add something else. It was getting up to 120 degrees in the summer in days. So I put this insulated double aluminized stuff on top of these 1-inch strips, and it's held up to all of the weather, incredible problems. The rain is deflected, but still goes down the normal drainage path, which goes over here. And by the way, that's how you fix a fence, at least from bending and bowing, and then you paint it with linseed oil, which is a thousands of year old solution. This is the latest thing. Instead of doing an annual garden, and I was having lots of difficulty producing anything meaningful, decided to go with trees and perennials. I just can't, the weather can't be predicted, and we've had rain and everything is sprouting, and I don't use insecticides. I don't use any kind of poisons really. And I even let this grass kind of sprout, but I do need to pull out some of the palms that are starting. Incidentally, the palm here on the right, yes, Mr. Palm here, he's a soda straw palm. He started in my garden, and just like a seedling like all the others, but he had true grit. Look at it now. Anyway, with this thing, I'm going to try and get in and walk this through from front to back for people who have been following this. So this is the resurrected gravel path, and these are boxwoods on both sides. And right here, it's kind of a little Zen meditation thing, but it's also a hose minder that keeps the hose from being dragged over in the gardens. These were never really productive beds when it was a garden, so they were partial shade. Now I compost all of the pomegranates here. I chop them in half or more for the animals that feed here. They leave me enough that it provides me with pomegranates. So now the next bed down here is where we start to get to. I'm coming down the path, going past the boxwoods. They will get 6 feet high, and since I planted all the other trees here, I now realize how important it is to get them in the ground, because I didn't think I'd be here that long. I mean, it's we have a Jersey asparagus here. They hopefully will colonize the top surface of this. They'll keep down the weeds, and they won't compete with this goldmine nectarine. My only concern is I wanted a goldmine. I looked all over. I got one. There may be issues with sufficient chill. We'll see. I put it in the coldest place. This is a Dancy tangerine. As a little child, before I even went to kindergarten, I used to gorge under a Dancy tangerine when it was nine months out of the year, maybe at least 6 months out of the year, when it was totally laden with fruit. It was just a wonderful thing to lay under there. And well, as of just a few weeks ago, that original Dancy tangerine was still alive and still producing tangerines. So it's also known as a zipper tangerine because the outside peel comes off really easy and the segments come apart really easy. And also, as an interesting note, it's one of the only kind of fruit trees that if you take a seed from a Dancy tangerine and you plant it, it will produce an edible and repeatable tangerine. And that's not the case with a lot of different fruit trees. You don't know what you get when you plant a seed from the fruit. So moving on down here to finish this, and I'm going to move this again. So I also planted as a winter crop in some of these beds. I planted like some cabbages, and I planted 9 cabbages, and I'm using them as, well, I guess you'd call it a photometer. They were all identical in the same flat, and they all have the same 2-foot deep tilled and fallow garden soil. So pretty much I can map how much sunlight I get by how large they are at this point. About 4 weeks in. So I think that pretty good map, and it maps out to the way I used to get tomatoes, is that when I plant tomatoes in the summer, spring and summer, they will grow the same way. So we've now done the Dancy tangerine. This guy over here is called a burgundy plum. It's a sweet Japanese plum also, and it's a great rootstock for me to graft on again from fruit trees here in the neighborhood that I know of from over 50 years ago that are still alive. I intend to do some grafting, and I would like to have a couple of the apricot grafts, and I know of one elephant plum that is still alive that we used to gorge under as teenagers. The other tree over here is something that kind of I always thought of as tropical, but it's a pineapple guava. It's the tree variety, not the bush. And I had never eaten any of them until I spent some time at an old movie set where these things grew as bushes, and we used to gorge on that. This is the upper garden, and again you'll see wooden hose minders over there. Now we're going to see the lower garden, in which there's very little, if any, landscaping going on. It's all trying to go back to the wild, and it's because of a reptile habitat, which I'll get into. Alright. I guess I should point out that about a year ago or more I adopted a native California lizard that was in dire straits and was like the size of a small dark brown colored pencil, the kind they give to kids, the little teeny ones. And we thought she was a snake, we thought she was a skink, but we had to get her out of harm's way, and once we got to know her, we just had to adopt her. So the plan is at some point that she will, and we know now she's a she, that this is the rookery, the broodery for her babies. So we have a hibiscus over there, which is quite old, and then we have a navel orange, another navel orange, which is very productive, but it's been a lot of pruning since I've been home more. That is a Meyer lemon that 9 months out of the year just produces the greatest Meyer lemons. And that's a Mary Washington asparagus that's quite old now. And I don't know if you can see, but underneath half-inch to 3/4 inch diameter asparagus now, maybe probably not more than 5 or 10 pounds a year, but I've now expanded the beds and put in more drip irrigation. We've got some wildflowers going there too at the base. These are all walnut trunk pieces that were cut from this property, and my neighbor and I cut them up, and I just decided to keep them and put them out here as a long time ago as sort of a camp thing, campfire, sit around the campfire. But over time they turn out to be almost perfect lizard habitat. This plastic right here is a thing where we're trying to see what kind of lizards could live here other than Southern California alligator lizards. And so we made this thing of log butts, and we packed it with leaves, and then we put a thermal probe down inside. So it's 68 in the air right now. It's 64.6 inside the log butts. And it's really interesting because in the summer it does one thing, which is keeps it from reaching these horrible peaks. In the winter it does something else and keeps it from going down too low. But also now I need to explain to you my little friend Franklin. Here's what Franklin's doing right here. Franklin is a possum, and even as a city dweller, I certainly know the difference. I have raccoons here, a mother and 2 babies who I hope have moved on. I think they moved on. And I have possums. And I have hawks. I have a whole bunch of stuff living around here. But Franklin is a possum who thinks he's a surfer dude, comes out during the daytime. And I've known him since he was a large rodent, even though I know he's a marsupial. And now he's an adolescent, and he's still really fast on his feet, and he still comes out during the day sometimes, which is unusual. Now he goes to the garden and he does the borders, and he's looking for earwigs, I guess, and any kind of grubs or anything like that. But unfortunately he also eats lizards, little lizards, and hey, they're fair game, and probably lizard eggs. And what I built over here, because the plastic here is just an experiment, what's over here was supposed to be a protective habitat, see? So here we have sort of the gray brick road, and I happen to have 400 or 500 pounds of concrete around in bags that had set up long before I ever got this property. And instead of having them hauled away, it turns out that I just busted them up, and they made these really neat kind of gray stones. Oh man, the kid next door is going again. But so now, to go with the perennial stuff, these are mums, and the flowers are now back, and it's too bad you can't see the color, but the green will expand. That'll get 3 or 4 times larger than that. Got some succulents. We also have over here some wildflowers that were spread into this. This is going to be the meadow. It is the meadow. And you can see already that by pulling a few invasive weeds, I'm getting all of these things, thistles and stuff like that. The log butts are great habitat. There's another pomegranate bush over there. The wonderful variety, hibiscus. I'm gonna make some hibiscus tea. And these great things. You can see that I've even got a couple of little hummingbird feeders, because I kind of cheat. I feel sorry for them in the winter because they don't have that much to eat. But coming around here, these were grown on the property, and I think that you can see that it's a pretty, it's a reasonable size, Artichokes being what they are. The problem is, this used to be a bed that was about 15 feet long, naturally seeded every year, and I probably got 100 artichokes, 50 of decent size. And then we started getting these giant fluctuations in temperature, and just when I would be ready to start harvesting, suddenly it would get hot for 3 days. They would turn as hard as wood, and you can't really eat them. So they turned into sort of, yeah, they're for birds and they're for other stuff. But I did stick them in here to show that, you know, that's what you can produce if it didn't get so hot. And I consider them to be perennials. Hopefully with the new drip system and a little bit of shading, I can get something to come back. This is a basil plant that I planted here, and I thought that it was almost over, but it's come back really fantastically. And here's another thing. See, here's Franklin again, Franklin the possum, and he looks like Benjamin Franklin. There's another hole that he's been digging, and the thing is, I made this pile. Well, let me finish this up before I talk about Franklin. Over here, so I'll take those suckers off the trees. Just those Meyer lemons will be ready in maybe a month. Then I'll be able to also start taking in the navel oranges there. You can see that already there's a few that have fallen off, and I think that probably you could probably eat that, but I'm going to leave it. And there's a Meyer who fell off green here and turned yellow. I don't know if you can see that. But my difficulty right now is that Franklin the possum, who I think is cute, and there's no doubt he's cute, and he has taken over this pile, which is completely organic. There's no poisons in it. It's rose bush trimmings, citrus tree trimmings, and pomegranate bush trimmings, along with some other random stuff, you know. But it was for lizards, and already I've had little teeny birds like dive into this pile and come out with a little teeny lizard, and that bugged me. And my herpetologist friends told me to get a BB gun, and I went, no, we're not going to do that. But maybe tongue-in-cheek they said that. But Franklin is living in there, and that means it's probably not a very good habitat for lizards or anything else. He also bugs me when I'm in the cave over here, the person cave, because he'll be scurrying back and forth at night looking for crickets and stuff out on the... Anyway, I won't hurt Franklin, but sometimes he does really stress me out, just because of what I'm trying to do, and the fact that he's so cute and he's really not helping me out with a lizard habitat. Anyway, at some point that pomegranate, that wonderful variety of pomegranate, will fill in that whole space, and then I will have completed cutting back and arboring those trees to make sort of a little meditation center back there. So we come up this path now. This is another main, so we go up this main path here. Now you've been around on my projects, and if you guys are still interested, I'll actually show you Gator Girl. I mean, it was amazing, the lizard adoption process, and the fact she's native. And the problem is, the intent is fully to repatriate her to the outside now that she's really a large adult female. But you see, the problem is I got Franklin living in there, and you know, so why don't you guys give me a comment as to what I should do about this dilemma of Gator Girl versus Franklin. All right, that's it. Thanks.